All right, so these are our examples from 3.1, and we're going to take each of these examples and translate them into sentences of sentential logic. So these examples particularly are examples associated with disjunctions and conjunctions. So let's start with our first example. Our first example right here is Carla will not have both cake and ice cream. So our first job here is to identify the atomic sentences. So we need to identify the parts of this complex sentence. So this sentence seems to have two parts. The first part is Carla will have cake. And the second part is Carla will have ice cream. Now, let's think for a quick minute about why those sentences are Carla will have cake and Carla will have ice cream, and they don't include the not. Remember that not is a logical connective. It's a negation, and so it's not going to be included in our atomic sentences, because if we included the not, we wouldn't in fact have an atomic sentence. All right, so now we have our two atomic sentences. We need to assign them letters. Right? So we assign them letters or values so that we can then create our sentence in sentential logic. So we're going to assign Carla will have cake the letter C, and I'm going to assign it the letter C for cake. And then we're going to assign Carla will have ice cream the letter I for ice cream. Right? So I've just picked out what's importantly different about those. And what's importantly different about those two sentences is cake versus ice cream. Hence why we're going to name them the way that we have. Now we're going to go through and we come back to look at this sentence and we look at all of our different connectives. So I'm going to go ahead and underline the different connectives that we have. So we very clearly have an and connective right here. So we have a conjunction. We have a not connective right here. And we have a both. And everything else doesn't really seem to be a connective. Those are our three important connective words. We've got a not, a both, and an and. Now notice here that both and are basically doing identical work. They're doing the same thing. When we say have both cake and ice cream, we're saying a conjunction with both of those words. Both means conjunction, as does and. So these two connective words are really repetitive, right? They're repetitive. So we know that there's going to be a conjunction, right? That's what both and tells us. And then we also know that there's going to be a negation. Carla will not have both cake and ice cream. Now, from the position of and, we can tell that and directly connects cake and ice cream, right? Because it says Carla will not have both cake and ice cream. So cake and ice cream is sort of insular. So we can presume that we're going to have this sort of conjunction. We're going to have cake and ice cream. And then we also know that not comes outside of both cake and ice cream, right? Or not comes out here. So we're going to have a not out here. But then we have a question. What's the scope of the not as compared to the and? So in other words, we have that super important question, what takes widest scope? And so is widest scope the conjunction? Or is it the negation? And so the important thing to determine this is to notice that not comes first in the sentence and that not seems to negate this conjunction, right? It's not the case that you're going to have both, right? So it's not the case that you're going to do both things. So the not doesn't really negate cake specifically, and it doesn't really negate ice cream specifically. it negates the entire conjunction, right? It negates the both. You're not going to do both. Hence, what we really need here we need parentheses, because the parentheses then tell us it's not the case that the whole of the conjunction is true. So now we double check our work and we read our sentence back, and our sentence here says it's not the case. That's our negation, right? It's not the case that Carla will have cake and ice cream. That Carla will have cake and ice cream. And that is, for all intents and purposes, exactly the sentence that we started with. We've moved the negation out, right? So instead of Carla will not, we now have it's not the case that, but these have equivalent meanings. And so we have, in fact, acquired the right translation. So we've done that correctly. All right, and that is our first example. We're going to go ahead and move on to our second example.